Welcome back to the Block Party, episode 10, NBA edition. I am joined by the one and only King Wells. How's it going, dude?
What's up?
And I am known as the Medium. We are here to talk some NBA basketball. I do just want to make sure that your video is working, because on my end it's not. Of course. Damn it.
Can you hear me okay, though?
Can hear you fine. Video feed's cut.
Just picture an incredibly handsome dude. Beautiful features.
Well, I don't know if we should continue or should we maybe restart, but we can probably just get it going. I don't know what's going on.
You want to just keep going for like 5 minutes, see if it comes,
See if
and
it kinks out.
worst case we'll do it over. But
cool. Let me just see if that worked. I think we're good now. I think I just had to like refresh it, but
there you go.
Cool. I can see you
That's
moving.
why they call you the medium.
That's the the medium of the medium tools. We have to get it done somehow. We'll find a way. Let's talk about someone who didn't find a way. The Toronto Raptors, unfortunately. Sorry, I don't want to segue into it like that, but
That's all right.
We might as well get into it because we both know we're gonna hit this talking point eventually. So obviously last night was a pretty painful loss. Raptors end up losing the series 4-2. Philadelphia 76ers advancing to play the Miami Heat in the conference semis. As I sip my coffee and think and ponder on this, how are you feeling about the series as a whole? Obviously, it didn't go as planned, but I wouldn't say it was 100% a negative. I think there were some things you can take in stride, some things that we can look at as a positive. It leads me to want to discuss possible offseason moves, and we can get into that, but I'm more curious right now for your take as a whole on how this actually ended up looking, how the series felt to you, and I mean, if you were to go to the beginning of last night's game, it was looking promising. It looked like we came out swinging, but then obviously the second half was a bit of a different story. So I'm curious on your take on the series as a whole, last night specifically, and maybe some positives, some negatives that you didn't see coming or you saw coming throughout.
Yeah, well, I think to start with last night, it's always disappointing to lose the last game of the season like that, and that's always going to be there. That's always going to be tough. But I think at the end of the day, you have to look at the big picture. And well, you know what? First things first. Got to give the Sixers credit. They played a hell of a game last night. From Embiid to Harden to Harris to Tyrese Maxey, just a hell of a game all around. It was very, very impressive. And they just went out there and they took care of business. That's what they're supposed to do. That's what they probably should have done more in games 4 and 5. But they did what they're supposed to do. They took care of business. You can't be angry at that. You got a former MVP that just went to work on us last night, and a potential MVP that went to work on us as well. And I think again, like I said, you got to look at the big picture here, which is just like let's look at it. We're losing to a 4th seed team. We had the 5th seed at the end of the year. We're probably at least 10 wins more than where people even thought we'd come close. Showed a lot of fight throughout the series, especially in our defense, which was very, very fun to see, because the way we played, the Raptors showed that they can do a lot with less. And I think that's going forward, that's going to be really important. And this leads me into my next point, which is the big picture thing, is it looks like we have a superstar. It looks like Scotty Barnes is really going to be a superstar, or at least has all the tools and is showing that he will have the opportunity to make it there. And we're going to come back stronger next year. You know what I mean? I don't think this is a disappointing season. Like I said, it sucks to lose the last game. It sucks to lose like that. But hey, we didn't get swept. We lost in 6 games, put up a fight, and at the end of the day, we weren't even supposed to be there. Most people didn't think we'd make the playoffs. So I'm very, very proud of the Raptors. I'm proud of the way they play. Proud of Scotty Barnes, Pascal. I'm not going to name everybody, but I'm proud of these guys, and I'm really looking forward to next year. What's Masai going to do in the draft? What's he going to do in free agency to kind of retool a little bit, plug up some holes? I think that's exciting to think about too. But let's go. Let's go. I'm not, I was a little upset last night when it happened. I think everybody that was rooting for the Raptors probably was too. But keep your eyes on the big picture because I think the future is very, very bright in Toronto. And to be honest, I would probably go as far as to say I'd rather be, I'd rather have the Raptors' future right now than the Sixers. I think ours is a little bit brighter than theirs might be.
Interesting take. I think you touched on a lot of really good stuff. I think that to think of it as a disappointment or to be disappointed is natural, but I think when you look at the big picture and even if you just compare a couple spots down with the Boston Brooklyn series, things could be a lot worse, right? You have a team like Brooklyn who's a win now team getting swept. You have a team like Toronto who's a developing young team, pretty much making this a 6-game series when it probably should have been a 7-game series. If you look at Game 3, how we lost,
Sure.
the circumstances of Game 3, how down to the wire it was, how we came out swinging. There's no doubt in my mind that that shot doesn't go in. We're up 3-2 in that series.
Or if Precious just makes a foul shot, it doesn't even get to overtime.
Right, there you go. So there's a lot of
Hey,
variables, and we can nitpick, but I think as a collective whole, this is pretty good. And then you also have to look at the factors of Scotty Barnes missing time after the first game, hurting his ankle, not being being somewhat of a shell of himself. Let's be honest here, he wasn't playing at full health. It was pretty obvious, and he still came out swinging, still came out trying, and I think
no, he was going at Embiid last night. I was impressed with that.
yeah, and to see that determination and that ability to to play through injury, and when there's a lot of names we can wink say Ben Simmons, guys that are avoiding the moment. Scotty looks like he wants to step up to the moment, so that leaves a better taste in your mouth as a whole when you think about it like that. Now, obviously, I think we have to discuss it, but Fred VanVleet, dealing with that knee injury, not being here when we essentially needed him. How much of a concern is Fred VanVleet in terms of, or not? I shouldn't say concern, but how confident are you that he's part of this Raptors team future? Because from what I saw, and this is just being truthful to the moment, and I don't want to ignore what Freddie did all year. Freddie had an unbelievable season. He was named an All-Star. He played lights out for the first half of the season. But on a serious point, am I crazy to say that the Raptors played and looked like they were playing better without him on the floor? And I think a lot of it just came down to giving guys more offensive touches like OG, making sure Siakam was kind of the guy with the ball in his hands primarily, getting more looks for Scotty kind of when he came back, although he didn't shoot a lot, but opening up, shots for Gary Trent and Precious and Chris Boucher. Am I crazy to say that the Raptors looked a little bit more cohesive without VanVleet on the floor? And do you think does that play into the offseason of possibly looking to trade him and make a move while we still can, while he's somewhat in his prime, or maybe at this point slowly exiting his prime? But obviously you don't want to ignore the fantastic start in the All-Star season for Fred. But availability, obviously we couldn't really see what he would be. And mind you, I think if we had Fred VanVleet last night, it probably would have felt a little bit easier. And I'm sure there's times where you can, insert him and take him out and you pick and choose. But just from what I saw as a whole on the series, it really looked like it opened up more looks that were needed for guys like Gary Trent and Siakam and OG specifically. So how much of a possibility is it, do you think, looking to move VanVleet in the offseason? And do you think that's probably our most tradable piece at this point, maybe beside a guy like Siakam or OG? But do you think that's something that the Raptors will explore in the offseason?
Short answer, no. I don't think so. I think, to be honest, I think, we looked really good in Game 5 without VanVleet, but I would say we looked good on defense, and we won that game with defense. And I think that was the biggest, and this has been said, by a lot of people, but I think it's the truth. Like, you take VanVleet out of the lineup, put Scotty Barnes in at point guard, and all of a sudden, Harden's life is a lot more difficult because basically, he's looking for switches, he's looking for an easy target. Doesn't really exist anymore. Did a little bit better of a job last night with that. He went at Gary Trent as much as possible, went at Kem Birch as much as possible, and I give a little bit of credit to Doc Rivers for setting that up. I think a little bit more in Game 6, but going back to Freddie, I don't think they play better without him. Like overall, I think that Freddie brings a lot to the game besides his big shot making ability, which is undeniable. It would have been nice to have him last night. But I will say one thing though. What this has made me realize, and I hope this is the direction they go in. I don't want to trade Van Vliet. However, I think it might make sense to bring him off the bench as a sixth man. Because from what I can see from the Raptors this year and this series, even though our bench outplayed Philly's bench, the bench has been a problem for us all year. And having a guy like Fred VanVleet coming off the bench, like not only does that give us some firepower, stability, playmaking, defense, name it, that'll just settle the bench for sure. But it opens up the starting spot for Scotty. Our defense is just unreal with these big guys on the floor. I know they still have to figure out the scoring a little bit more, but I'm okay with having that strong defensive foundation and just letting all the other chips fall where they may. And then the other thing is, if Fred's coming off the bench, this is a way you can kind of save his body a little bit, manage his minutes a little bit better, and kind of avoid what happened this year, because like he was playing like an all-star at the start of the year, absolutely. But when you're playing 40 minutes a game, and he was leading the league in minutes for a lot of time, and so is Pascal Siakam. But
yeah, a lot of the
Siakam's
starters were
just,
in the Raptors.
he's on another level. Like Siakam's built like he looks like a long distance runner. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he doesn't seem like it. He doesn't ever really seem to get tired.
That's it. And Freddie, I mean, God bless him, but I just don't think he's built that way. Although he's been taking that pressure all year, and that knee just never really got a chance to get better. So to answer your question about Freddie, like I don't think we should look at trading him. Obviously, right, with any question like that, if something comes up, you consider it if it makes sense. Of course, there's nobody that's untradeable, but I do like the idea of Scotty Barnes, Gary Trent Jr., OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, and Precious Achiuwa starting games. Like I really like that. And then with Fred coming off the bench, like all of a sudden, wow, right? Like he'll probably win sixth man, or he'll be in the running for it.
Is that realistic to think that he would go from the starting point guard all-star to coming off the bench in a single season? Like I just don't know if that's something that we would even want to put on him, or if that's something he'd be cool with, or if is that a realistic thing, like at this point to say?
I don't see why it wouldn't be. These guys are professionals. I mean, like if they're winning, if the shit's working, then
right.
What are you gonna say? And he doesn't strike me as the type of guy to be a prima donna about it. I know it's not an easy conversation to have, but as long as you're keeping your eye on the big picture, I think that makes sense. I really do, and I think it would be better for his career. But anyways, so that's one thing that I've been thinking about.
I mean, it's I think I agree with you. Like I kind of like him disassociated with those starting five guys, and then if we could ideally bring him off the bench and have him kind of dictate the offense, be the primary scorer, and just like still play him 30 plus a night, obviously, because there's guys in this league that play 30 minutes a night off the bench, like Jordan Clarkson's and people, Tyler Heroes. There's guys that are utilizing that kind of primary scorer role off the bench very effectively, and it can be deadly, so
and it doesn't mean that he doesn't finish the game,
right? Exactly.
He could definitely always finish the game,
and then you could run you could take Precious out of the lineup and move
Scotty
down
up to center, or Siakam,
Siakam down to 5, whatever you want to do. Have that option. Now here's my train of thought. What if you could move Fred VanVleet for a big, like a true big, a dynamic big, a true 5 that could actually be kind of a prime, like an elite defender. So here's the idea that's running through my mind. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, again, no rumors, nothing like that. It's just simply an idea that came to my head. But
sure.
I'm looking at the Cleveland Cavaliers right now. Okay.
Thinking Jared Allen?
Yeah, and I'm seeing a really dynamic front court. I'm seeing a star guard in Darius Garland, and I'm thinking, okay, what could Cleveland use right now, in terms of kind of taking them to the next level? I think they're pretty big heavy, and I think that it would just kind of make sense. Now I'd have to double check salaries,
No, Jared Allen would make sense.
but I'm pretty sure if you look at a Jared Allen for Fred VanVleet move, so I kind of have to look at both sides and I'm like, okay, how is this helping the Raptors? Well, it's going to give us a true guy who can play center, is an elite defender, one of the best in the leagues around the rim. And then if I go to the Cleveland side of things, I'm like, okay, well, it's not like they're missing that entity. They just drafted Evan Mobley, who already looks like he's going to one day probably lead the league in blocks. Like, he's that good. And, he might not be quite as, beefy or strong as Jared Allen right now, but they're very, very deep in their front court, right? You got Kevin Love, Lauri Markkanen. And if you think, well, Darius Garland, although it might be small, you pair Fred VanVleet and Darius Garland on the perimeter. That's just really good IQ, good shooting, good defense with Fred in there. I think it could work for both teams. Now, mind you, both teams would have to agree. I don't know if the Raptors would necessarily are they taking that straight up? Are they going to want more for Freddie? Has the injury and like kind of battling this knee thing maybe brought it down to level playing field? But just an idea that came to my head. Cleveland kind of underachieving, not making the playoffs after a great year. Losing Sexton. They still got Colin Sexton, obviously, but he's not really one. He's not going to give you the same kind of spacing as a guy like Fred will, or the same offense necessarily as a guy like Fred will. And I could really see them utilizing a guy like Sexton off the bench. Call me crazy, but does that trade kind of work and help both teams? How would you feel about a move like that? Shipping off VanVleet to get a true center, a guy like a Jared Allen that you could add into this rotation to make us even scared. Not that we need, any more length or defense, but I think a true five and having a guy like that could, with these guys, could be like even scarier and maybe take it to a next level. But maybe it's a little over ambitious, the train of thought. But I look at the flip side of Cleveland and I'm like, well, I could see that helping them as well. Getting an all-star, getting a guy like Fred VanVleet to pair with Garland, and then you got Mobley, Kevin Love, Markkanen. It just kind of made sense for both teams, contract-wise, timeline-wise. So just curious on your thoughts on a move like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's financially, I think it makes sense. I don't know if it's necessary. That's my thing. I don't know if it's necessary. I think I would much rather keep VanVleet and go after somebody like a DeMarcus Cousins in free agency, and see if you can get a big body like that. Because quite honestly, I'm all in on Precious Achiuwa right now. He showed me a lot in this series.
Mm-hmm.
He's only like 22 years old or something. He was a rookie last year, but he went toe to toe with Embiid, and like I know Embiid had 30 and 10 last night. Listen, I'll acknowledge that, but Precious has showed me that I think he can be effective in the role that the coaching staff and the management have for him. I think he could be kind of that starting spot for us. But I will say, like, that's why I would like to have a DeMarcus Cousins or a big body coming off the bench, or just that option there when you come across these Joel Embiids or the Jokic's or whatever to match up a little better. Like I would be told, and in fact, that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that we can, it could be tough, it could be easy. I don't know, because sometimes these guys get contracts like I don't understand. If we could get like an Andre Drummond on a minimum contract like he's doing now, that settles everything, right? But I think that's what I would want. I want to ride this wave with these young guys, and I want to give Precious a full chance there. But I would not mind at all. Like, I would love to replace Khem Birch in the role that he's doing with a bigger body, more traditional center type. Just to me, I don't think that needs to be a star. I don't think that needs to be a star.
Yeah, I guess my train of thought with Precious, and when I hear you talk about him, like I'm with you. Like I love everything I saw out of this series a lot. Specifically, it gives me a lot of confidence, and makes that Lowry move just feel like, wow, the fact that we got a guy like Precious. You got to be appreciative of that.
It's
But
funny how those moves. Sorry, I'll like finish off. But I was thinking about this though. It's funny how like those moves like that, the players that sometimes just seem to be like throw-ins. There's always somebody that ends up being like a much bigger part of that trade than you think. You
yeah,
know, it's
yeah,
just crazy.
like I'm thinking to the OKC deal now that you mentioned that with Paul
Which one?
George. And then you got
Yeah, yeah, straight up.
Victor Oladipo being the main piece, but then
It's a
Sabonis
bonus all of a
being
sudden.
right. There you go. So yeah, that's kind of like good call out there, and it's true.
Or
Uh,
Marc Gasol being thrown into that Pau Gasol trade
yep.
when he went to
Yeah.
Lakers, and
Very
him
true.
being the best player in that trade eventually. Well,
Very true.
arguably, but
Down
whatever.
down the road, yeah. I guess my concern with Precious
Yeah.
is just size.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't think he's capable. I just think he's undersized for the center, and I think he gives me more of a power forward vibe. And like the thing with a guy like Jared Allen that I'm just keen on is like he's a true 7-footer. And I'm not saying he can necessarily go bang with Embiid, but I think if you look at any guys on our team that we have right now, including Scotty, I think Jared Allen just matches up with Embiid size-wise a little bit more. It gives you that length, and I think like if I just look at his frame and his style, he fits into our system, and he just seems like a guy. To me, I wanted them to go after him in free agency, but
Well, they did.
um, I it seems to me like he is kind of just someone you slot in, and he would find his way right away. Obviously, your spacing, and your shooting with Van Vliet is a little bit better, or much better, and it's a completely different player. So it's hard to imagine you're trading with a small point guard for a like a long center who's not really stretching the floor. But I'm with you. Like I don't want to take away or take away from the development of a guy like Precious. My worry is that we don't have that true five. And I'm also with you that if we could grab a guy like Boogie Cousins or Andre Drummond in free agency or get a guy like that, now I just don't know if those guys are guys we can rely on playing heavy minutes down the stretch and
But that's
think
what I'm saying. We don't need to play him heavy minutes. I'm good with rolling with Precious and just having those guys or that type of guy
to slot in.
just there,
Yeah.
available.
Yeah.
Like the role that Kem Birch has this year is what I think we need an upgrade at.
Mm-hmm.
And love Kem Birch. And honestly, Kem Birch did it for what he is like, for where he is compared to where Embiid is. He did an amazing job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if we could have a big man, like you're saying, I'm agreeing with you here. Like we need a big body to take those, initial hits.
Yeah.
From guys like that. But the other thing is like a guy like Embiid, a guy like Jokic, like they're few and far between, right? Like that, it's not. That's the reason that I don't think it's, it's not that I wouldn't want it. It's not that I don't like the fit. It's that I'm not sure that it's necessary to give up one of our best assets to make that trade.
I see what you're saying. Now, it would definitely be interesting, like if you look at that on paper, like if Scotty Barnes at your 1, Gary Trent at your 2, OG at your 3, Siakam at your 4, Jared Allen at your 5, like lengthwise, I don't think anyone's really competing with the Raptors at that point. Already, we kind of have that down. To be honest, we're kind of already known for like having that length and just being like a bunch of very long defenders. So it might be
Long boys.
little bit overkill in that sense, but I just think we definitely need to work out our 5 spot.
Well, one guy I'm hoping they go after is Mo Bamba.
Yeah, well, okay, so that would be if you could get a guy like Mo Bamba and not have to lose a Van Fleet. I think that's actually a little bit more ideal. And the other thing with Mo Bamba that I really like is he stretches the floor.
Sure. Yeah.
So I mean that in a perfect world, I think is kind of what you're looking at. I just is he unrestricted or is he restricted?
He's probably restricted.
So you got to ask: is Orlando going to go all in on him? Because then the other thing you got to think.
I don't know. That's why I'm thinking he might be an interesting target.
It's interesting too, because from what I'm hearing is they're looking at that first pick with, I don't know if you looked at any of the draft prospects, but Gonzaga, that kid from Gonzaga, Chet Holmgren.
Chet, right?
Yeah, Chet. He's looking like the guy most people want, and if Orlando gets that first pick, you kind of got to ask yourself, is Mo Bamba going to be in their priority? Are they going to go build all in on Chet here? Because it's very like 7'1" stretch. I think Chet is obviously a little bit more skilled than Bamba especially early on. And I think Chet would be the guy everyone would take. But I'm just saying, if you get a guy like Chet, well, then what happens to your confidence, or what happens to Bamba in terms of your rotation? Do you really feel confident paying that guy out, or you're probably like, I think we're gonna go all in on Chet and Suggs and Franz here, Cole Anthony, build around that team, Markelle Fultz. I think
Yeah, don't forget Wendell Carter that they
Wendell
have, and Jonathan
Carter
Isaac.
for sure. So they got so much. Yeah, they got a lot of depth in that front court that it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it might be a play to sell high on Bamba, or if they could sign and trade. I don't know if that's a possibility, but even if
Yeah, it's a possibility. They could do that.
but definitely worth considering. I think Bamba would be a really good fit for Toronto because like not only is he going to give you that rim protection, and I don't think he's quite as probably consistent at protecting the rim as a guy like Jared Allen, but then on the flip side is you're going to get the ability to stretch the floor, and you get kind of more of that modern five. So it's interesting for sure. But I think those are two really good potential ideas for the Raptors to look at targeting. Is there anyone else that you could see them going after? Any other fives that catch your eye that
You know
you could
what?
see them?
There are, but I'm thinking we should probably save that and
Yeah,
let's do like
an
a
off-season recap
yeah,
kind
you
of thing.
know, like
Cool.
let's
So yeah, we'll give you a little taste of what we're thinking right now. It's obviously gonna. Anytime that your team gets eliminated, the first thing you jump to is what's next, what's
sure.
coming off season. So you want to talk about it, you want to dive in, you want to think about it. But I'm with you. We're still into playoff mode. We just finished the first round, so let's probably save that. But food for thought on kind of some of those ideas.
And you know what? We are like we traded our draft pick for Thad Young, but I think a lot of thing that has been lost on people is we got a second rounder coming back from Detroit. So
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be a high second rounder.
Right.
And so like yeah, we traded our pick, but really it's like we moved, 10 spots
Right.
down in the draft and we're going to go in like early second round instead of mid to late first. So
Right. Right.
um, we're going to pick a player there.
Mm-hmm.
And Masai has a good track record so far.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's
So
interesting.
I don't want to, we'll save this probably for later. I'm just curious if there's anyone on your. I get if
My
you want,
draft radar,
yeah, draft radar.
I haven't looked at all,
you were
man. I haven't looked at
so
all.
bang on with Scotty last year that I'm like, okay, like let's make it two in a row. Who's the guy this year, bro?
Well, I'll take a look because honestly, I haven't looked at all. Like MLB, I didn't even watch the NCAA tournament. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
true. Okay,
I'm sorry.
it's all good. I thought you might have watched that. Like I know, like I was watching a little bit of it. I was
Yeah.
kind of just following Gonzaga and Chet mostly, to be quite honest. But there is this kid. I'm curious on your take. So just keep this name in the back of your head for when you go looking. Shaden Sharp, I believe.
Sounds like a good NBA name.
Yeah, right. And dynamic kind of 6'6" scorer. It gives me kind of like a Jalen Green vibe. I'm pretty sure
Cool.
Shaden Sharp's his name. But look at him. And then obviously you got to think of Chet. And then also the kid from Duke there. A lot of people are talking about Pablo. Forget his name. Pablo something. He's the other guy kind of, I think, slotted in. And Jalen Duran or something. Those are kind of the guys I'm hearing. But from everything
All right.
I've seen, Chet Holmgren looks like kind of the guy that most people would probably take with that first pick just because his frame, his ability to block shots, killer instinct, stretches the floor, gives me kind of, like a Kevin Durant vibe. Is like the
Whoa.
one everyone wants to compare him to, but it's probably
Kevin Durant.
Yeah, that's who they're. I mean, they're saying his ceiling. Obviously, that's a pretty high ceiling to achieve, but it's because he's 7'1" basically, and he can dribble the ball, stretch the floor. He's got a really good quick first step for a big man like that. Finishes at the rim well. And protects the paint, like pretty elite. So I mean, it's probably a bit of a stretch, like how many people are going to turn into Kevin Durant. But I mean, that's
Is he going to be Kevin Durant or is he going to be Bol Bol?
Yeah, well, I think if you're looking compared to Bol, he's definitely more mobile. Like he's definitely already he's NBA ready right now. I think from what I've seen, I'm pretty high on him.
Cool. I'll
as a lot
check
of
it
people are.
out.
But
I'll check it out.
and we'll get into kind of probably an NBA draft episode down the road here. But all right, let's stick to what's actually going on in the NBA. So worth discussing. We have pretty much every matchup in the conference finals or the conference semis now counted for. There is obviously still the Memphis-Minnesota series that needs to pan out. So Memphis,
what a fun series that's been, eh? I want to give you some credit on that one too, man, because I know you call Minnesota winning this. I didn't think it was going to be this close, and now all of a sudden I don't see how this doesn't go to 7 games.
Sure. First of all, thank you. Respect. I've been watching a lot of Minnesota the last 2 years. I've been really a fan of their team, like their come up. And I think Chris Finch is honestly an underrated head coach. I think he's smart in how he uses his players. I think he's really good at adjusting to situations, and that was a little bit of like why I was confident in them. Is I thought he was a little bit underrated, and I thought they were pretty capable of hanging with Memphis. Like I really like their Pat Beverly addition. I really like their bench pieces and like guys like Jaden McDaniels, like pieces that you don't hear too much about, but that kind of Jared Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I like Vanderbilt a lot.
Guys like that, Jordan McLaughlin, like dudes that don't play this huge role but are effective, and I liked that about them and going into this series. Obviously, when you look at last game, it comes down to the greatness of John Morant. Because if John Morant doesn't make that layup in the last 2 seconds of the game, everyone's going to be talking about Anthony Edwards hitting that shot, right? So
Yeah.
which is kind of a shame for Ant, because what a shot! First of all, for Anthony Edwards to pull up and hit that, you got to give him credit, because that was a dagger, right? That was an absolute stunning shot. And Cat played phenomenal
He did, but he's the one who made the mistake on John Morant at the end there.
Yeah, that's true. But I put a lot of this blame on, like, for me, that if we go back to 2 games ago when the series got tied, D'Lo took a really bad shot, and I don't think he should have been taking that shot. That to me was like kind of like a big. I didn't like that. Cat, I thought, played really, really well last game.
Yeah, he did.
But it just gets to a point where you watch the series and you go, John Morant is doing something right now. He is elevating.
He's spectacular.
To a point where you go, this guy is not an all-star. This guy is turning into superstar before our very eyes.
Yeah, exactly.
The way he can control the energy of the building, the crowd, his teammates, he truly has an aura, a winning aura that you get from a guy like a LeBron James or a Kevin Durant or a Kawhi. Like, as crazy it is to put him in that conversation, he gives you those same kind of that winning energy, right? That makes those guys great. And I'm excited to see his development. I'm excited to see how Minnesota bounces back.
Is Game 6 tonight?
I think it is. I wasn't too sure if it was, but I'm pretty sure it would be tonight. If not tonight, probably tomorrow. But we'll definitely be watching. That's been probably
a fun series,
most fun series so far out of besides Toronto, obviously being a little bit biased towards that.
Yeah, sure.
It's easily been my most enjoyable series to watch in the first round, and it's been the most competitive.
You know what was never mind. We'll stay with this one. We'll stay with this series. Go ahead.
So yeah, I'm curious if you think this is going to 7, or do you think Memphis can close the 7?
It just seems like that kind of series, doesn't it? Like,
yeah, it does.
How does Minnesota not go back home and win it now? The crowd going crazy. I mean, they were so close to winning that last game. Like, right. I think like John Morant pulled it out, yeah, but I don't think it was like what a spectacular performance, and he just won it. I just think Memphis made a little bit less mistakes than Minnie did in the last quarter, honestly.
Right.
Like both teams didn't finish it out super well. Like Ant hit that beautiful shot. I'm not taking it away, and John Morant, that dunk was maybe one of the best ones I've ever seen in the playoffs.
Ridiculous, right? Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, no.
It doesn't even look possible or human, some of the stuff he does. Like, and to think he's 6'2", right? Doing that, it's like, wow. This guy is.
He's special. He's special, no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no. If I had to pick, I'd say Minnie wins it tonight or tomorrow, whatever. Minnie wins Game 6, and then I'm gonna, I'll stick with my guns and say Memphis wins in 7.
Memphis
but
in 7, yeah.
At this point, man, I could see it going either way, and this is a really fun series. Like, they're very evenly matched. They match up specifically across the court very well.
Right.
And it's a lot of young guys just kind of taking the stage. So what more can you ask for?
And
now, mind you, I don't see either of them beating the Warriors.
No, me either. And I was just
is it the Warriors or is it Dallas?
It's the Warriors. And I was just going to get into that. I think that with how well the Warriors are playing, it's like I think this is probably as good as it gets for either of these teams once they get past this point. I think this is kind of where the storyline ends. I do see the Warriors just getting to the conference finals, no problem.
Yo, can I say something?
Yeah.
I am so looking forward to Dallas and Golden State in the conference finals.
Okay, so you're counting out Phoenix because you do know Dallas is playing Phoenix in this.
I think they're going to beat them.
Wow.
But I think, well, anything can happen, whatever. But this is my call.
Okay.
And I think Warriors versus Dallas is going to be so much fun if that ends up happening.
I think I would love to see that pan out. I am kind of excited to. Well, so obviously Luka took care of business was it last night or the other night? I think it was
I think it was last night.
last night. Took care of business. I don't know if you saw the highlights, but Bogdanovich had a chance to win the game.
Yeah,
And
very clean look.
He missed it, a very wide open look, and he ended up
Yeah.
missing, which is tough. But you got to question now what's going to be on kind of Utah's plate here in the future. Let's get into Dallas Phoenix because I'm curious on Devin Booker's back officially, and he looked
Yeah.
like. I mean, Phoenix took care of business against New Orleans. I'm a little disappointed we didn't get to see any Zion, even 20 minutes of Zion. But maybe it is for the best ultimately at the end of the day. You gotta just wonder what's going on with there. But I think if I look at Dallas Phoenix as a series, I don't know, man.
I know that it's
yeah.
on paper it's Phoenix is a heavy favorite. I realize that.
Right. I gotta if my gut feeling says Phoenix in 6, Phoenix in 5, maybe. Like I don't see them losing this. I mean, man, and let me put it this way: if Luka Doncic gets this done versus the Phoenix Suns, if he pulls this off, because mind you, I didn't realize this before, but it does make sense. He's never been to a second round before.
No, because he's come against Kawhi every
exactly.
time.
He's had to play 6 games. Versus Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers, right? So this is his first time advancing to the second round.
Didn't they go to 7 last year?
7 last year, 6 the year before, I think, right?
Oh, okay.
Something like that. If he gets this done, automatically, you're gonna the whole narrative is gonna shift to Luka beat Phoenix, right? Like that's gonna be a big storyline because Phoenix is obviously the best team in the NBA. It's record wise. Keep that very clear because I think we're both in agreement that they're probably not the best team in the NBA.
But I'll be quite honest. Like I thought New Orleans when after that game in New Orleans, I think it was Game 4 in New Orleans, when they blew out Phoenix. I think I texted you. I was like, man, I'm starting to root for the Pelicans here. Like,
right.
And I thought they were gonna give them a lot more trouble than they ended up giving them, but we'll see.
What would you say that series goes to? The
you know what?
Phoenix,
I think
Dallas.
it's gonna be like a movie, so I'm gonna say Dallas in 7.
Ooh, interesting. I want to say Phoenix in 6. I would love to see Luka
go with it, man.
I would love to
Phoenix
see.
wraps it up in Dallas.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. As ambitious as I know, that sounds crazy, but
it doesn't sound crazy, man. Phoenix is number 1 seed, and they got Devin Booker back, like you said. Chris Paul just had an amazing closeout game.
Unbelievable, Chris Paul. Like, oh god, the stuff he does at his age blows my mind, and his IQ, unbelievable. Was it 2 games ago? 14 assists, 0 turnovers, and the most important thing to keep in mind here. So Ayton, I love what I'm seeing from Ayton, and Ayton in the playoffs to me.
Oh,
yeah. I see Ayton consistently. It's like Ayton kind of reminds me of one of those wind-up toys where you crank it, you wind it up, and then eventually you just kind of let it unleash, and it shoots off, becomes.
And then it just slowly gets slower and slower. Or?
Well,
I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you.
I mean, so it's a bit of a slow start, but he tends.
I got you.
He kind of he picks up and ramps up, especially in the playoffs. Like he kind of continues to look like a little sharper, a little like more in tune with his game. But obviously, Devin Booker, to me, is the best player on Phoenix, and probably to a lot of people. You could obviously make the argument about Chris Paul, but I think when Devin Booker's clicking, that's when this team's at their best, right? When he's kind of your primary guy.
I would put it this way: I think Devin Booker is the best player, but I think Chris Paul is the most important player.
Okay, cool.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's probably that's pretty much what I'm trying to say as well. Now, Dallas gets this done. They play Golden State Conference Finals, just say. What do you have that series go to? And then go back and tell me what you have that series going to if it ends up being Phoenix playing the Warriors in the Conference Finals.
I mean, I don't love this because we're talking like 2 series ahead now, but
sure. But I mean, let's be honest. I think we're both in agreement that Golden State makes the Conference Finals versus Memphis or Minnesota. Now, we could be wrong, but I think that's pretty. It would be a pretty big upset if they didn't make it. I think.
All right, let's say our bets for Memphis, Minnesota, and or versus Golden State, and then let's say those ones.
Okay.
Let's at least do it in order.
Okay, so you want what I think the series is going to: Memphis versus Golden State or Minnesota versus Golden State?
That's right. Well, yeah. So
I
yeah.
think Minnesota Golden State takes it in 5. Memphis
Okay.
Golden State takes it in 6. That's my prediction.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. I'll go with that.
Yeah, pretty nice, right? And it's boring, but it lines up on paper to the way I see it panning out.
I mean, okay, I'll say something else just to be different. I'll take it one game further.
Okay.
So I'll say if it's Mini, they're going to get swept, and if it's
interesting.
Memphis, it's going to be a gentleman's sweep at 5 games.
Okay. Pretty interesting.
Just to be different.
We have Memphis probably winning the extra game on them, right? My reasoning for that was simply just John Morant probably doing a John Morant thing.
Sure.
Right.
Fair enough.
Which you got to give him credit for. Okay, so but we both are in agreement that Golden State probably takes that series, right? So
yeah. Did we say for Dallas? Yeah, you said
Dallas
6.
Phoenix.
Yeah, okay,
I said Phoenix 6. You said Dallas 7.
Yeah, I like it. All right.
So let's talk theoretical. Golden State Dallas, Golden State Phoenix. How do you see those series panning out? And who do you think Golden State prefers? Because as much as you want to say Dallas,
That's
it's like,
question.
Do they prefer Dallas or do they?
I don't know.
Do they prefer Phoenix? I think they'd probably prefer Dallas, like on paper, right?
I don't know.
But do you really want playoff Luka? And let's look at what Luka has done to the Warriors in late game season stretches the last 2 years. If you go look at Dallas versus the Warriors, he always plays extremely well, and there's been games where he's blown them out by 30 in the first quarter, dude. So it's interesting, but
I think I'm gonna say, oh man, I don't know. These are my picks out west. I think I'm gonna say Warriors. Oh Jesus, I'm gonna say Warriors in
6.
Something inside me is telling me 7. I'll say Warriors in 7.
Cool. So you think Warriors going to the finals?
I don't know.
I kind of think that's what's going to happen.
I don't know, because I could 100% imagine Luka just tearing it up.
If Luka gets to the finals, I will have the most respect. Like, I will have gained.
That would be quite impressive.
So much respect for him after that whole Porzingis thing, trading him, getting Dinwiddie.
Because they're not
like, be honest,
really at 150%, right?
And let's be honest, dude. If they get to the finals, it's because of Luka. Like, their team isn't. I don't want to sound like a hater here, but I'm not looking at that team on paper being like, this team's getting to the NBA Finals. Like Jalen Brunson, Dinwiddie, Maxi Kleber. It's not like they have even. They don't have Tim.
Hardaway's out.
Hardaway anymore. Yeah. It's like they're undermined, it feels like. And if they can pull it off.
Yeah.
Luka,
well, whatever they do, no doubt about it, it's on Luka's shoulders.
For sure. And it'll be interesting to see. I don't see them getting past Golden State at this given point. It's
tough to
Golden State is so deep. Like, I mean, even just looking at Steph, Clay, Draymond, but then you gotta take into consideration, like, who does Dallas have on the level of like an Andrew Wiggins or a Jordan Poole? Like those two guys alone can go get you 20, 25.
Well, Jalen Brunson's the closest.
Brunson, sure. But, I mean, let's be real. Physically, if Wiggins will physically impose, and you saw Golden State try to go to that in that Denver in I think it was it Game 4 that they went to Wiggins down low and try to physically impose. Like, they know Wiggins is strong. Like, Wiggins has strength, like big man strength, and they have pieces like that, and he's mobile, and we forget that Wiggins looked like an all-star, and all the talks on Jordan Poole right now, rightfully so, but Wiggins, the first half of the season was in that all-star nod, right? Like, he looked pretty good as well, and that's something you can't forget about. And then you gotta think that, like, pieces like Otto Porter and Bielitsa, like, these are not bad pieces. Like, they're pretty solid role players. Gary Payton. Gary Payton has looked really good for them even last year. The mitten, yeah. So it's interesting to see, but yeah, Golden State's my heavy favorite in the West. Now let's take a break from the West because we really concentrate on that. Let's move to the East. Okay. We got two pretty heavyweight matchups here: Miami, Philly, Milwaukee, Boston. Like, to me, this is. I heard Greg Anthony say this last night on NBA Center Court. Yeah. That was a stream I was watching because I typically watch the American streams, and it's not because I'm a hater on the Raptors feeds. I want to point this out. It's because I like to see what these guys say about the Raptors. That's like
I get it.
one of my big things. I enjoy hearing what the universal talk about the Toronto Raptors is around the league. As much as I do really love Matt and Jack.
Matt and Alvin.
Was it
great
Matt,
job this year?
Was it Alvin?
Well, they switch depending who's carrying the game.
Right.
But Alvin Williams has been a lot of fun. He's been start of the year was a little rocky, but he's done well.
Found his groove. All right. How do you see Miami Philly playing out? How do you see Boston Milwaukee playing out?
Where do you want to start?
Let's start Miami Philly because obviously, I mean we have ties to Lowry being in Miami. We have ties to the Philadelphia series because we just lost to them last night. So I'm curious on your take. Does this momentum carry in Philly? Does it go, or is Joel Embiid's hand injury too much to overcome? I mean, look, I want to give credit to James Harden last night. Okay?
Yeah.
Because if we're being realistic about what happened, Embiid was unstoppable last night, but James Harden looked, to me, like he played his best game of the whole series last night.
It was, no doubt.
And hitting step backs, getting to the rim. Is this something we can see more of? But then what makes me question that is look what Miami did to Trae Young. Completely took Trae out of that series. Like completely took him out of the series. Like playoff lows in 3-point percentage, playoff lows in field goal percentage, playoff highs in turnovers. Bad series for Trae Young. I'm not undermining Trae Young as a player or what he did. I think it's just a testament to Miami's. They are trapping you at the top of the 3-point line.
Miami to me is like if the Sixers think they had a hard time with the Raptors, Miami is the Raptors on steroids.
Right, with more offensive firepower too, probably. Right.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. All around. So I think they're going to have trouble. I think Jimmy Butler is going to get in Embiid's head pretty early.
I totally forgot about Butler and the Philly dynamic thing too.
I think Harden is going to have a hard time. If Hero's on the floor and he can get that switch and go against Tyler Hero, I think he can probably get 30 a night. But Miami is pretty smart, and we'll see what happens there. But I'm going to watch that series. I think Philly's going to have a hard time. I expect Miami to win it. I'll say Miami in 6. Yeah, that's my call.
Cool. Yeah, I'm kind of with you. Like, I'm probably leaning Miami, but to me, it kind of depends on, like, can Embiid overcome this hand injury? Can he play through it? Can he beat Joel Embiid? Because,
well, he's I don't know. The thing with Joel Embiid, man, like, I'll give him a lot of credit, tons of credit. He beat us last night, all right? But he strikes me, it's like when the going gets tough, it's not that he disappears, but all of a sudden excuses come out. All of a sudden he's talking a lot. All of a sudden this and that and this and that. And it's just, if I'm going to talk about this guy as an MVP, you got to do it every single night. You got to do it through pain. You got to do it through injuries. Like, if you want to be on that level, you got to be about that. You have to do that.
But in all fairness, he hasn't missed a game. He's played through this hand injury. I think like it's pretty universally known that he needs hand surgery. Like,
for sure.
It's probably a bitch. Like, let's be honest. Like playing with a thumb injury in the game of basketball and your shooting hand when you're slamming and you're shooting the ball, like it's probably a bitch. And I don't think like I know what you're saying, and the talking kind of gets to me, but at the same time, the guy dropped 30 and 13 on us. I think last night he had every right to talk. Now, like, I don't...
Yeah, I'm not saying don't talk. But what I'm saying is he only seems to do it when he has a really great game, but then when he has a bad game, all of a sudden it's the other side of the story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the reason I was bringing this up is because, like, his hand hurts. And when he's going inside getting smacked around by Bam Adebayo, trying to get steals, PJ Tucker trying to get steals, like, it's going to get worse. Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry are not going to be hugging him out there. So that I expect him to. It's going to be really, really hard. It's going to be really difficult, and it's just going to get worse. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and especially if it's the end result is like we know he needs surgery, and we're just basically playing as long as he can to avoid that. It's like, yeah, that doesn't make me feel too good about the Miami series. Now, mind you, bro, like one person we have to give mention to because we just didn't. Tyrese Maxey, like how
I mentioned him.
how good
He
did
had a
he
hell of
look
a game last night.
last night? Like looked unreal. Like for me, it's the shooting. I didn't know he could shoot like that personally.
I don't know how
Um,
consistent that's going to be in the next series, but yeah, when he's shooting like that,
it's
not much you can do.
pretty hard to stop him. I'm with you. I'd probably go Miami here. Not. No, I'm not gonna sit here and act like I've been high on Miami all year or like especially high. I knew they were a good team, but I think just seeing what they did against Atlanta, seeing how humanized they made Trae Young seem, um, it's hard to imagine that defense. And like you said, it's basically the Raptors, but a more elevated version, a more mature version. To me, it just seems like it just seems like Miami probably takes this. Um, let's talk about Milwaukee Boston.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna be a total heavyweight series, right? Like
Yeah.
a total series. Couldn't you see that series going 6 games?
I feel like whoever wins this series probably wins the East.
Interesting, and I'm with you there. I think how much. So Chris Middleton's probably out this whole series.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Like, does Milwaukee? It's crazy to say, but does Milwaukee have what it takes to get it done without him versus this Boston Celtics team?
It's going to depend on Giannis, and that's not a like big surprise there, right? But
Right.
that's what it's going to be. I mean, first thing I want to say is Celtics were unbelievable against Brooklyn.
Right.
They deserve all the credit in the world. I still can't believe they swept Brooklyn. I still can't believe it. I think that's anyways.
Pretty wild.
It's nuts, and they did it. Like they just took it. So you gotta respect that. I respect the shit out of that. Celtics are for real. Like I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, this series. This is probably the one that I'm having trouble. I don't
know.
I think I hate the Celtics, as a Raptors fan, but I think I'm gonna go with the Celtics on this one.
Wow. I'm shook, bro. Like I don't know. I don't know how this plays out. Like, I just don't know. I'm with you. Like I don't know. I look at it and I see a big old question mark. Like I could see it going. I could see Boston winning the first 2 games. Then I could see Milwaukee coming back, winning 2 straight. I could see that being reverse order. Milwaukee winning game 1, Boston winning game 2. I could see going back and forth, trading punches. Like I could see so many different variables on how this plays out that I can't even give you a confident answer on who takes this because I just genuinely don't know. Like that's Milwaukee to me on paper. If you were to tell me at the start of the year who takes this, I would say Milwaukee in 5 or 6. Now the way I look at it is I'm like, dude, this Boston defense is next level. Jason Tatum is emerging into a superstar. Mm-hmm. Jaylen Brown looks like an all-star turning into a superstar. Maybe not quite on that Tatum level, but he's right there. Marcus Smart is an ultimate defensive leader. Al Horford is slotted into the perfect role again with this dynamic of Brown and Tatum, which we've seen get to the conference finals before when they were very young. I believe Robert Williams is now coming back into the lineup. Daniel Tice back on this team. And the list goes on. I mean, like guys like Peyton Pritchard being a dynamic player off the bench for them. They have depth.
Forget Derek White. They got
at the deadline from the Spurs. They have depth. They have defense. They have poise. They have an identity. And
pretty good coaching, it looks like.
Udoka's doing a great job. And got a lot of criticism early on because they weren't winning.
Well, but such a bad start.
But as it's progressed, it's really looked like he's found an identity with this team. I want to say Boston takes it, but I hate to count out Milwaukee like that, especially being the defending champions and with how dominant Giannis is. For me, it just comes down to Chris Middleton's the really big piece for them. And in these moments where games have been close, last year in the Brooklyn series, last year in the final, like Chris Middleton's been an X factor at times. And I mean, they have firepower. They have Grayson Allen, Pat Connaughton. They have guys that can hit the three, but do they have a guy like Middleton is a guy who can truly create his own shot for them when they need it most? And that's what scares me is if they start needing that aspect where a guy like Tatum and Brown can really go get you any shot you want.
Yeah, I don't know. Right now, looking at it, if Giannis can because it's going to come down to Giannis. Because like Robert Williams is great, but I think I'd rather Al Horford kind of try to handle Giannis just because of his experience. But both of them are very strong, very mobile. Well, maybe not Horford mobile, but both of them are very strong. And I think we're going to get an answer pretty early in game one of what it looks like them trying to handle Giannis, because that's where Milwaukee has to go. And I'm, I know I picked the Celtics, but I'm very curious to see how Giannis responds and how they respond to him and what that looks like, because I could easily see this being a parade at the foul line too, depending how the games are called.
Right. Huh. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know how to read it. I don't even want to make a guess.
Big one.
I really don't know. Like I would have.
I'll say Celtics in 7.
I'm gonna say Bucks in 7.
In 7, okay.
Yeah, Bucks in 7. I think they'll find a way to get it done. And then if Middleton can come back next series,
I'll be rooting for Milwaukee.
I mean, I'm happy for Tatum and Brown and Marcus Smart. Like, I'm indifferent, man. I just want a good series, and I don't doubt it will be a good series. So, all right. So we're down to Milwaukee or Boston, I guess. You're saying Boston, Miami. Who takes a Boston Miami series? Probably Boston is who I'd at that point
I
have
think
to go with.
again. I think whoever wins this series is gonna go to the East. They go to the finals.
Sure. Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. To be honest.
But Miami would be assuming Miami beats Philly, Miami would be pretty tough out for Boston too.
And there's been good playoff history with those two teams.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see. A lot could happen here. The East. One thing I wanted to say is, like, I heard Greg Anthony say this. Yeah, this is the first time he can remember in a long time that he could see any of these teams in the East winning at all, which is kind of interesting. Now, I don't really know if I agree with the Philly side of things, especially given the injury Joel Embiid's dealing with. But I mean,
Yeah.
valid point. Like, when the East has never really felt this strong. Like, these 4 teams. Like, if you're looking at the top 4 teams in the East versus the top 4 teams in the West, who's stronger to you as a whole? Like, top 4 in the sense of the top 4 in the center.
That are left in the playoffs
In
right
the
now?
left, yeah, conference semis. And we obviously don't know Minnesota or Memphis, but just slot either one of those in. Slot Memphis in if you think probably the stronger team, right? So Phoenix, Dallas, Golden State, Memphis, or Miami, Philly, Milwaukee, Boston. Who's stronger if you had to pick a side, East or West, out of those 4 or those 8, I guess? I'm probably.
I don't know. I think it's a wash for me. I'm not sure.
Really, I'm probably saying. I'm probably just saying, given what I've seen from Boston, Milwaukee, Miami, and like Philly, just like the dominance of Embiid. I'm probably saying as a whole, when I take in Dallas and Memphis, and I'm not undermining Dallas, but I'd probably say as a whole East. But it's like it's just interesting because usually it's like a West. It's like the West, no questions asked, right? Like, kind of like it's been like that for a while. So it's just interesting to see that the East has like this really kind of strong 4 sitting at the top here, where it's like I don't know who wins out of all these teams. I wouldn't be surprised if even Philly went to the finals at this point. So as much as it'd be like, wow, that's probably the one I would least expect it, I wouldn't be like totally caught off guard. So it's, mind you, the injury with Embiid does really factor in for me. But Miami goes to the finals. I'm not like, wow, I didn't see that coming. It's like, well, I see how that could happen. So that's to me why I'm like, I think the East is very, very strong, and like these 4 teams have never really been as strong on top of the East. Like it's been in a while, I think. But
I'm with you.
It's gonna be interesting to see how it all plays out, because obviously, anything can happen in the playoffs. There can be disappointments. I would say out of these next 4 series, so Memphis, Minnesota, Golden State, Phoenix, Dallas, Miami, Philly, Milwaukee, Boston, I think the must-watch series out of that is going to be Milwaukee, Boston. I think that's going to be the most exciting. But I mean, I'm super excited to see Phoenix, Dallas. I'm super excited to see Miami, Philly. And if you get Ja versus Golden State, like, that's going to be an experience. Or even the Timberwolves would be fun watching Ant and Cat go up against that team, try to take it from them. So yeah, man, I'm excited, bro. Like I think this is going to be unreal basketball coming up. It's already been really, really good basketball. It's already been an exciting, memorable playoffs. There's already been big moments. I think. What would you say the biggest moment of the playoffs has been so far? Probably either the Embiid shot or the Jaw game winner would be the two for me that probably stick out as the biggest shots or the biggest moments in the playoffs. But
Yeah, that sounds right.
what do you think? Is there anything else that I'm missing? I guess it would come down to those two, right? Probably being the
Well, I
biggest moments.
think Boston sweeping Brooklyn.
Yeah, well, that's definitely the most unexpected too. Like, wow, didn't see that one coming.
That's crazy.
I was way off on that. I didn't see.
Are you kidding me? I was here last week saying this is Game 7 written all over it.
Yeah, same. It really wasn't. It really
What a
wasn't.
fool.
Nah, man. I said it. I wouldn't be. I literally said last week I wouldn't be surprised if Brooklyn wins 4 straight. And hell no. And we didn't even get into the Ben Simmons talk or him coming back and if he didn't
You
come
know
back.
what? I'm going to put about as much effort in talking about Ben Simmons as he has passion to play basketball.
So let's just leave it then. Let's just leave it because I'm with you. Like I don't even want to talk about this anymore. In regards to him playing.
I am glad that he's not going to. Again, can you imagine if Brooklyn just won a ring and he's just sitting there with a ring? Fuck.
Well, I guess
anyways, we don't need to worry about that anymore.
We really don't. We don't even have to worry about them winning a game. So, I mean, we'll get into off-season stuff. We'll get to me, people saying this affects Kevin Durant's legacy. I guess to some regard it kind of does, but to me, Kevin Durant is still Kevin Durant.
You know what? You know what it is? It's like it does. Listen, it does. Everything always does in one way or another. But if you think about it, all the big superstars, all the big ones, let's say all the great ones, they always have that one playoff kind of hiccup, one way or another, sometime in their career. And Kevin Durant hasn't really had that. Like, I'm not gonna. When they went to the finals and lost to LeBron in Miami, that's not a hiccup, man. These guys were so babies.
They were overachieving at that point.
That's it. So yeah, I think this is Kevin Durant's hiccup, and I kind of leave it at that.
Yeah. It doesn't. But does it change the way you see Kevin Durant as a player? It doesn't for me.
I'm still scared of him if I'm playing him in the playoffs.
Yeah, same. Right. Like that's the way I look at it. Do you think this could be any type of separation for Brooklyn, or do you think those two probably stick it out and play together?
You mean him and Kyrie?
Yeah, because I think Kyrie does have an option, right? And
it's really, really interesting to see what they do with Kyrie.
And
how do you feel comfortable giving this? Like, I think I saw a clip about Stephen A. Smith, and I think he was bang on, man. He was like, he deserves $50 million a year. But the idea of giving this guy a long-term contract just seems a bit silly. Like they might have to end up doing that.
Yeah.
But man, it just doesn't feel super. Feels a little weird.
What about the idea of him? What about the idea of a Los Angeles Lakers trade?
What do you mean, for Westbrook?
No. For something,
say
something regarding Davis and Durant. If the team breaks up, could you see anything like that unfolding? Am I crazy?
Like Davis for Irving?
Davis for KD if KD wants out. If Kyrie's out.
Come on.
If Kyrie wants out, right? And then Durant demands a trade. He's only got 1 year left on his deal.
I don't know.
Ben Simmons, Anthony Davis, your future? No, you don't like that? Maybe a couple draft picks.
Do you like that?
I mean, I like that better than losing Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving in free agency and getting nothing. I'd take Anthony Davis.
Well, yeah, if that's the other option, but that's not the only other option.
I mean, for sure, but if you're having to trade Kevin Durant.
Well, right there, you're making an assumption that they're going to have to trade Kevin Durant.
I mean, it's all what ifs, but
I think Lakers have a tough offseason ahead.
This was, I don't know. I'm somewhat optimistic. I mean, the Westbrook thing is obviously going to be hard.
Hey, I'm not. Listen, I like those. Like I was saying, those minimum level contract stars tend to flock around LeBron James for a little victory lap. So like that's going to happen again.
Always does.
I don't think it's impossible that they're going to trade Russell Westbrook. Like I think
1 year left on his
deal. Probably find something for him. They'll probably find somewhere for him. Yeah. Actually, maybe we'll save it for the other one, but I do have a couple ideas there, but we'll save it for the off-season one.
Okay, fair. Well, I mean, look, man, we covered most of the playoffs so far. We've covered every pretty much game up till this point.
Hmm.
We still have the one series left in the first round, Memphis, Minnesota, which will be obviously
Which is
wrapped.
tonight.
Which is tonight. Okay,
Game
cool.
6 is
So
tonight,
that'll
anyways.
probably be wrapped next couple days, and then next
Yo,
week we
you,
will.
you
Sorry.
know what they started doing last year or a couple of years ago, and you know when they start playing second round games before all the teams are out of the
Yeah,
first
yeah, I
round.
remember that. I hated
I
that.
hope they don't do that again,
No,
man.
I
I
hope they
hate
don't
that
do that
shit. It
either. But
feels so weird.
I don't like it either. It's for condensing and keeping things on schedule, but I hate it. I hate it
Yeah,
too.
man.
Finish this series. It's like a couple of days, like
And also game sevens should be on Sundays. Like I know that doesn't always work, but
if you
on a,
can.
if it's a
Yeah,
Sunday game 7, man, it
it's the
just that
yeah
feels so right.
yeah. It's like that elimination football. I think that's where we get the. I think that's where you draw the similarities. It's like that one game elimination Sunday football. It gives me that vibe. So yeah, no, I'm with you, man. I don't like when they start the second round before, and I hope that doesn't happen. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's second round matchups tomorrow. I haven't checked, but I
Ugh.
bet you there is. Just
Yeah, there probably is.
there
Yeah.
probably is, just based
Well,
on like the timing and stuff. Like I don't know, but hopefully they. Well, who knows? Maybe Memphis finishes it tonight, and then we don't have to even worry about that. But like I said, I think we covered most of the first round so far in depth, pretty thoroughly, pretty all the way. We've stretched into who we think is going to the finals here. So we'll probably wrap. We're over the hour now, hour 6, and we will come back next Friday and have probably a lot more to talk about. Probably won't
as
be
always.
probably be like halfway through the second round at that point. So yeah, man. Good episode today. Good talk. I will see you next week, next Friday, 3 p.m. EST. This is the block party. Any final remarks before we cut?
Go Raptors. It's going to be a great season next year. Proud of the boys.
Cool. On that note, we're done. Peace out, guys. We'll see you next week, Friday. It's the block party. Peace.